Hi, I'm Jaida from GirlfromtheCoastDesigns. I create knitting patterns and tutorials designed with structure, clarity and care. You will need a crochet needle, your working needle and some waste yarn. You start with a slip knot, which goes on your crochet needle. So your working waste yarn goes underneath your knitting needle. You grab it with your crochet needle and you pull it through that slip knot, and that has created your first stitch on the needle. Once again, your working yarn goes behind your knitting needle. You hook it again with your crochet, and so you go on for your desired number of stitches. So as you will see, the crochet creates a chain along the bottom, and that is what ultimately, when we're ready to reactivate the stitches, we will unzip in order to be able to take the next step in our garment as we work. So once you have the requisite number of provisional cast-on stitches, you just pull out that last stitch that's sitting on your crochet needle, cut a reasonable length off and just thread that loose end through so your provisional cast on doesn't accidentally unravel. And then we're joining our working yarn. Now if I'm working in the round, I don't join my provisional cast on in the round. It's not necessary. We can join on our first row of working with our actual working yarn. So we just join our working yarn here and we start to work through our first row of knitting. And when we get to the end of this row, I'll show you how we join in the round. Okay, so I'm up to my last stitch of the provisional cast on. So that's worked. Make sure that my stitches aren't twisted, and I will join in the round. And there we are. So some thoughts on the waste yarn that you choose. I always go for a yarn that is the same weight as the working yarn I'm ultimately going to be using. Ideally you want a smooth yarn that isn't fluffy, because that makes it difficult to unravel. For that reason, the likes of a mohair or a fluffy alpaca yarn is probably not going to work well for you. So yes, just some careful thought about what to use, thinking with the end in mind when you're wanting to unravel this yarn and reactivate those stitches. So this is a double folded collar with provisional cast on, and I am now ready to unzip the provisional cast on and reactivate the stitches to fold the collar in half. So to unzip a provisional cast on, you start with the end of the cast on, and so for me that's this stitch here. And what we're going to do is unzip the cast on by first of all undoing that first stitch So as you can see, this crochet cast on starts to unravel, and here's why it's important to have that contrast yarn. You want to grab the stitch that's sitting through there. So if you want to come in close, I'll do that again. So we're picking up that stitch. We're going to carefully pull through the cord to release it, and we're on to the next stitch here. And again, before we release that stitch, we'll just put our needle underneath and grab it so we don't lose it, and then carefully pull that cord through. So I'll just carry on and I'll go on round this collared neckband, and then I'll show you how we join the collar together. Okay, so I have now reactivated all the stitches. Now if I count these stitches, I will find that I am one short than what I cast on. Now that's not because I've cast on the wrong amount. It's because one of the stitches that we create in that provisional cast on actually is used in the chain itself, in the way that it's created. So you can resolve this in a number of ways. You can do as I'm going to do here, which I am going to pick up the thread here, and because it's a bit loose, I am going to twist it. So I get the right pace, I will twist it and put it back on that way so that the stitch is nice and firm, and that gives me the right number of stitches. Or in some of my patterns I will actually get you to do a provisional cast on for one extra stitch, and then so that you don't end up in your working stitches with an additional stitch, you knit two together or purl two together in the first row of the pattern. And that way when we come to reactivate our stitches, we have the right number. Okay, so now we're at the bit on the double neckband when we're actually going to stitch the two parts together. So down here on this particular design there is a contrast inner neckband, so light blue stitches, dark blue stitches, and a little rim that will show at the top as a feature of the design itself. This is the Navis sweater. Okay, so we've got our provisional stitches here, 120 stitches, exactly as I need, 120 working stitches. Let's do the exciting bit and actually join it together. So here with my working yarn, knitting the first stitch, knitting the reactivated stitch on the bottom, knit them together and take them off. Purl coming from the back, purl those two stitches together, and so on all the way around the neckband. Just take your time, it's a little bit fiddly, a lot of stitches, lots of needle points everywhere, and some of these provisional stitches are a bit tight and a bit tricky, so just take your time, you'll get a good result, and I'll come back to you at the end and you can have a look at what the finished neckband looks like before I then start on the body of the sweater.